Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're really getting into something vital, our brains. Because, let's be honest, the way things are going with mental health, cognitive function, it's a real concern. I mean, just look at these numbers. Last year, 1 in 6 adults in the UK ended up with a prescription for antidepressants. That's huge. And dementia diagnoses. Over 800 people every single day in the UK. Picture that, it's like 9 double-decker buses full of people getting that news daily. Just staggering. Professor Michael Crawford, he's from the Institute of Brain Chemistry, he put out this really stark warning. Said if things keep going like this, by 2080, maybe half of all kids could have some kind of neurodevelopmental impairment. He painted a pretty bleak picture, warning about, well, widespread cognitive issues if we don't change course. So what is actually going on? In this deep dive, we're looking into Upgrade Your Brain by Patrick Holford. We want to unpack this perfect storm of factors causing the decline. But more importantly, we're focusing on the solutions, practical things, not drugs.
Our aim today is really to give you the insights to boost your own brain health. Okay, let's quickly touch on the brain itself. Basic stuff. Gray matter, white matter. Gray matter, that's your neurons, the processing units, where the instructions are banked, sort of. White matter, that's mostly myelin, fatty insulation around the connections, making signals zip faster.
Right. And these neurons, they talk to each other using neurotransmitters, which are actually made from amino acids, the building blocks of protein. And for fuel, the brain's pretty flexible. It can run on glucose, sugar or ketones, which come from fat breakdown.
It's just incredibly complex. From the real basic stuff, the reptilian brain managing breathing and survival,
Yeah.
all the way up to integrated electrical activity.
Yeah.
Like beta waves when you're focused, or theta waves when you're meditating or feeling intuitive.
Yeah, and how this amazing brain even evolved is fascinating. The source really challenges that old savanna theory,
Right.
us evolving out on the plains. Instead, it points towards water, the aquatic ape hypothesis.
Aquatic ape, what's the evidence for that?
Well, it's pretty compelling, actually, our upright posture. Much better for wading than sprinting. And think about our skin mostly hairless, but with this layer of subcutaneous fat that's way more common in semi-aquatic mammals. And maybe the clincher, that waxy coating on newborns, the vernix. No other land mammal has that.
Wow. And this goes way back.
Oh yeah, ancient. The evidence suggests our ancestors were eating, even cooking, marine food almost 200,000 years ago, getting those crucial omega-3s and phospholipids right from the source.
So a fishy diet was kind of foundational.
Absolutely, which makes this next part even more, well, shocking. Despite that early brain growth spurt, our average brain size has actually shrunk by over 20% in the last 30,000 years.
20%, that's huge.
It is, and over 10% just in the last 10,000 years. And here's the kicker. This timing lines up almost perfectly with the shift to land-based farming.
So more grains, meat, milk.
And a lot less fish,
Yeah.
exactly. Given how much the brain relies on those specific building blocks like omega-3s and phospholipids, the source argues this dietary shift is the most likely culprit.
It's like we accidentally started pulling apart the foundations of our own intelligence.
Kinda. It makes you think, doesn't it? Like those dinosaurs may be eating themselves into trouble, but for us, it's about the specific nutrients our brains evolved to need. We stopped providing the right materials.
Okay, so that's the deep history. But what about now? It feels like we're in a modern perfect storm for our brains. And diet is still front and center, right? This idea of dietary devolution.
Definitely. The modern diet is just upside down, nutritionally speaking, for the brain. Way too much omega-6, often from processed vegetable oils and grain-fed animals. And critically low in those essential omega-3s we just talked about. It's a massive departure from the wild food diet we co-evolved with.
And sugar's role in this, the source says it's literally shrinking our brains.
Yeah, that's a major point. Sugar creates these things called advanced glycation end products, AGs for short. They basically gum up the works, damage brain cells. Fructose especially seems to flip a switch in our metabolism towards making fat, and it also blocks some anti-aging pathways.
And the insulin resistance link.
Huge link. Insulin resistance is a core feature of metabolic problems, and it's strongly tied to cognitive decline. That's why Alzheimer's is sometimes called type 3 diabetes. Diabetics have triple the risk.
Triple.
Ah.
Wow, and I read in the source about a 19-year-old diagnosed with non-genetic Alzheimer's. That's terrifying.
It really underscores how lifestyle factors, not just genetics, are driving this.
Okay, so diet's a big piece. What else is in this perfect storm? The digital world.
Oh, absolutely. The digital revolution is, as the source puts it, hijacking our brains. We're seeing skyrocketing rates of stress, anxiety, insomnia, burnout, especially in cities. And our devices, our phones, social media, They're engineered to be addictive, constantly grabbing for your attention.
That constant dopamine hit, right? Until it stops working so well.
Exactly. It leads to dopamine downregulation. Your receptors become less sensitive, so you need more stimulation to feel normal. And that often drives cravings for quick energy sugar coffee to keep up.
Which leads us neatly into the stimulant trap. Coffee, for instance.
Right. A cup might give you a temporary boost, that dopamine kick. But regular, heavy use, it can actually make your dopamine and adrenaline receptors less responsive over time. That's why cutting back can give you those nasty withdrawal symptoms, headaches, feeling wiped out, irritable.
And the sleep impact is significant, too.
Definitely. Caffeine hangs around in your system for a while. Even having some 6 hours before bed can mess with your sleep quality, especially that deep restorative sleep.
Okay, so that's the storm. Let's pivot to the solutions, the nutritional pillars for upgrading our brains, starting with B vitamins.
Yes, B vitamins. The source calls them brain makers, and for good reason. B6, B12, folate, they're absolutely vital for methylation.
Methylation. Okay, what exactly is that?
Think of it like millions of tiny switches in your body. Methylation is the process of adding or removing a tiny chemical group, a methyl group, to molecules. This controls everything from how your genes are expressed to making those crucial neurotransmitters we talked about, like serotonin for mood, melatonin for sleep.
And this connects to homocysteine.
Directly. Homocysteine is an amino acid, but if levels get too high, it becomes toxic. It damages blood vessels, including those in the brain. And here's a really key point. Your homocysteine level is actually a better predictor of cognitive function than almost anything else.
Wow. Even in kids. Predicting school grades.
There's evidence for that, yeah. It's quite remarkable. And there's a genetic angle, too. About 1 in 3 people have a variation in a gene called MTHFR, specifically the C677T variant.
MTHFR.
Right. That gene is key for processing folate properly, which you need for methylation and keeping homocysteine low. If you have that common variant, especially 2 copies of it, you're more likely to have higher homocysteine. And that increases the risk for a whole range of mental health issues, autism, Alzheimer's, depression, schizophrenia.
It's not just genetics.
Right.
Absorption can be a problem, too.
Absolutely. Getting B12 in particular can be tricky. Things like common antacids, those PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, if you take them long term, they interfere with B12 absorption. The source links them to a 30% increased dementia risk.
30%.
Yeah. And the diabetes drug metformin, it's known to deplete B12 levels significantly.
It seems so fundamental, these B vitamins. You mentioned Dr. Hoffer back in the 50s using B3 for schizophrenia.
Yes, Abram Hoffer, he did pioneering double-blind trials, found high-dose niacin, which is B3, led to outstanding improvements, especially in newly diagnosed patients, but sadly, it was largely ignored. The focus shifted heavily towards pharmaceuticals.
Which seems like a recurring theme we might come back to. Okay, next pillar, essential fats and choline. The brain builders.
Right. Omega-3 DHA specifically. It's not just fuel, it's a core structural part of your brain cell membranes.
Just 1 serving of fish a week, reducing Alzheimer's risk by 60%. That's incredible.
It is. And then you have phospholipids. They make up more than half the weight of your brain cell membranes. And they work hand in hand with omega-3s. They actually bind to DHA. But guess what that binding process depends on?
Let me guess. B vitamins.
Bingo. See how it all connects? And a key phospholipid is phosphatidylcholine, or PC. It's the raw material for acetylcholine, a major neurotransmitter for memory and learning.
And the source mentioned a choline crisis.
Yeah.
Especially for vegans.
Yeah, because the best sources are eggs, fish, and meat. It's harder to get enough from plant sources alone. And it's critically important, especially during pregnancy. A mother's choline intake directly impacts her baby's brain development and cognitive potential. If her intake is too low, her own brain might even shrink slightly as the baby prioritizes its needs.
Wow. Okay, so B vitamins, omega-3s, phospholipids, and they work together.
Totally codependent. It's like a dynamic duo. The source highlights trials where giving B vitamins only worked well if people already had good omega-3 levels. And giving omega-3s worked best in people who didn't have high homocysteine, implying their B vitamin status was okay. When you give both to people who need them, that's when you see significant results reducing brain shrinkage, improving cognition, far better than any drug tested so far, according to the source.
It's that synergy again. You need all the right parts.
Precisely. Like building that house, bricks and mortar. You need both.
Okay, and the final nutritional pillar mentioned is antioxidants, protecting the brain.
Yeah, basically just living creates oxidative stress, like exhaust fumes from our metabolism. These free radicals damage cells and contribute to aging. Think of it like rust on metal. Antioxidants neutralize these free radicals, especially polyphenols, which you find loads of in colorful fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, even tea and dark chocolate.
And vitamin C gets a special mention.
It does, a keystone nutrient. What's weird about us humans and primates and guinea pigs, actually, is we lost the ability to make our own vitamin C. Most other animals make it internally. We have to get it from food.
Okay, so that covers the core nutrients. But it's not just about what we eat, right? Lifestyle plays a huge role. The gut-brain connection.
Massive. It's a superhighway. They're constantly talking to each other via the vagus nerve. The research is exploding, like 30 new studies published every day. We're seeing things like how a high-fat ketogenic diet can change the gut microbiome in positive ways and even reduce those amyloid markers linked to Alzheimer's.
So practical gut-friendly steps.
Things like maybe limiting wheat and dairy if they cause issues for you. Upping antioxidant and anti-inflammatory foods, seafood, walnuts, chia, flax, and fermented foods are great. Sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, they feed your good gut bacteria.
The source also mentioned food intolerance tests, IgG tests.
Yeah, for some people, identifying specific food sensitivities can be life-changing. The source cites cases where things like brain fog, anxiety, chronic fatigue lifted significantly just by removing certain foods identified by an IgG test.
And the serotonin link, made in the gut but needed in the brain.
That's right. About 90% of your serotonin is produced in the gut. But vitamin D seems to play a role in optimizing brain serotonin levels, helping keep more available upstairs for mood balance, and potentially reducing gut inflammation too.
Fascinating. Okay, beyond the gut, use it or lose it. Activity, both mental and physical.
Absolutely critical. For mental stimulation, learning something new, a language, a musical instrument, it has real neuroprotective effects. It literally builds new connections, makes your brain more resilient.
And physical activity.
Possibly the single best predictor of avoiding cognitive decline. But the source emphasizes complex movements are often better than just repetitive stuff on a machine. Think dancing, yoga, tai chi, even walking on uneven ground like hill walking. They engage your brain more, requiring balance and coordination.
And don't forget being social.
Definitely not. Social interaction is vital. It's learning, it's connection, it nourishes the brain. Stepping outside your comfort zone, trying new activities with others, it's all good stuff.
Okay, final lifestyle pillar. Managing stress and sleep. Hugely important.
Non-negotiable, really. Sleep is when your brain does its housekeeping and repair work. REM sleep, in particular, seems crucial for processing emotions, especially negative ones. Helps regulate mood.
And chronic stress. We hear about cortisol.
Yeah, chronic high cortisol is bad news for the brain. It can actually shrink the hippocampus, that key memory center, which directly increases dementia risk.
Hormones play a role too, right?
Yeah.
Beyond cortisol.
Yes, definitely. For women, low progesterone can contribute to anxiety, even panic attacks. For men, low testosterone is linked to increased dementia risk. So hormonal balance impacts mood and cognition for everyone.
So practical strategies for stress and sleep.
The source mentions natural calming agents like valerian, hops, passion flower. They tend to work on GABA receptors, helping to calm the nervous system. For immediate anxiety relief, there's the diving reflex, just splashing cold water on your face or immersing it briefly. It triggers a calming physiological response. Techniques like heart math are also mentioned, ways to consciously shift your heart rhythm pattern to reduce stress and improve focus, getting into coherence.
And basic sleep hygiene.
Crucial. Avoiding caffeine, especially after midday. And really making the bedroom a sanctuary for sleep, turning off phones, Wi-Fi routers. The source suggests electromagnetic radiation might interfere with melatonin production.
Okay, that's a lot of powerful information. How can people, actually use this? How do they start their own brain upgrade journey?
Well, the Food for the Brain initiative, founded by Patrick Holford, is a great starting point. They have a free online cognitive function test at foodforthebrain.org. It's designed to help you pinpoint your potential weak spots and track how you improve over time.
And people see results.
The source shares some really inspiring stories, like someone named Jan whose cognitive score more than doubled in just 3 months using their program. Plus, by taking the test that's anonymous, you contribute to research. You become a citizen scientist, helping track what really works.
That's great. And what about specific tests? What should people ideally get checked?
The source recommends a few key markers. Homocysteine, aim for below 10 millimole, ideally even lower, like 7. Omega-3 index, you want that above 8%. Vitamin D, aiming for over 75 millimole, optimally around 100. especially important to test and likely supplement in winter in places like the UK. HbA1c, that's your long-term blood sugar measure. Keep it below 5.4%, ideally 5% or less. And glutathione index, a marker of your master antioxidant status. Aim for the green zone. There's also something called the D-drift test mentioned, which combines several of these into one profile.
Okay, so testing gives you a baseline.
Yeah.
And the diet itself. Can we summarize the brain-friendly approach?
Yeah, it looks a lot like a Mediterranean diet, really. Plenty of fish, especially oily fish. Eggs are great. Lots of colorful fruits and vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds. Tea is good too. Key things to avoid or minimize. Added sugar is the big one. Reduce caffeine, maybe 1 cup a day max, and tea might be better due to the extra antioxidants. Alcohol in moderation, if at all, maybe a small glass of red wine occasionally. And dark chocolate, 70% cacao or higher, gets a thumbs up for its polyphenols.
The source even had recipes, like a hybrid latte and low-carb kedgeree.
Yeah, practical ways to incorporate these principles. The kedgeree uses mackerel packed with omega-3s. There's also a primordial soup.
And what about supplements? The advice is often, get everything from diet, but the source seems to challenge that.
It does. It argues that, realistically, achieving optimal levels of certain key nutrients from diet alone is very difficult for many people today. Deficiencies in vitamin D, B12, omega-3, and choline are actually pretty common, according to the evidence presented. So supplements are often recommended, targeted based on your needs and test results.
What kind of supplements are typically mentioned?
Well, for homocysteine, you're looking at specific B vitamins, B12, folate, B6, often combined with TMG, maybe zinc, NAC. For low omega-3s, a good quality fish oil or algal oil providing DHA and EPA. Phospholipids, especially phosphatidylcholine if needed. Vitamin C, vitamin D are foundational for many, a broad-spectrum antioxidant complex. For mood support, things like 5-HTP or magnesium might be suggested. And then there are specific botanicals with cognitive benefits mentioned, like lion's mane, reishi mushroom, ginkgo biloba, brahmi, but these are usually more targeted.
It all sounds incredibly promising and relatively straightforward compared to complex drug regimens, which brings up a big question. Why isn't this kind of approach more mainstream? If it's so effective, why aren't doctors recommending B vitamins and fish oil for brain health routinely?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? The source points heavily towards the pharmaceutical model. We can't patent vitamin B12 or omega-3 fatty acids. There's simply not the same financial incentive to research and promote naturally occurring nutrients compared to developing a patentable drug.
Look at the money spent on dementia drugs.
Exactly. Billions. The source mentions $45 billion by 2022, off on drugs with very limited effectiveness and significant side effects. Compare that to the cost of B vitamins and omega-3s, maybe £100 a year, as the source estimates. Adopting this kind of nutritional prevention strategy could potentially save healthcare systems vast amounts of money, not to mention improving quality of life.
And it challenges that drug-first mentality we often see, especially in mental health.
Very much so. The source argues that many psychiatric drugs don't address the underlying biological imbalances, and often their effectiveness isn't much better than a placebo, but they come with a host of potential side effects, some very serious like increased suicidal thoughts with certain antidepressants. This book really champions a nutrition-first approach, a sort of metabolic psychiatry. It assumes the body and brain have an inherent intelligence and will move towards health if you provide the right building blocks and remove the obstacles.
It echoes those pioneers you mentioned earlier, like Linus Pauling and Abram Hoffer.
Absolutely. Pauling, a double Nobel laureate, called Optimum Nutrition, the medicine of the future. Hoffer demonstrated the power of B vitamins decades ago. Their vision, sadly, is still often overlooked or actively dismissed by mainstream medicine.
So wrapping this all up, it's been a deep dive indeed. The key takeaway seems to be that while modern life throws a lot at our brains, we have significant power to fight back through nutrition and lifestyle.
That's the empowering message. Understanding these principles gives you tools. And the source emphasizes these approaches often work quite quickly, and they aren't harmful or addictive like many medications can be. You're working with your body's biology.
So a final thought for you listening right now. Given everything we've explored, that brains needs, the modern challenges, the potential solutions, what's one brain-friendly choice you could make this week? Just one small step to start or continue your journey towards better cognitive well-being. Maybe check out foodforthebrain.org, take that test, or just add some oily fish or berries to your shopping list. It all adds up.